Hey everyone, this is Gloria. In Isaiah 42, 7, 6 and 7, it says, I, the Lord, have called you in righteousness. I will take hold of your hand. I will keep you and I will make you to be a covenant for the people and a light for the Gentiles, to open eyes that are blind to see, to free captives from prison, and to release from the dungeon those who sit in darkness. Today, we are going to be diving into the incorrect perception of God. Sometimes our incorrect perceptions of God keep us from trusting Him with our lives. And we're going to be taking a look at that. Before we start, I want to know, what does the above verse mean to you? Isaiah 42, 7, 6 and 7. And it talks about how God is going to take our hand. It says, I, the Lord, have called you in righteousness. I will take hold of your hand. What does that mean to you? That's relational, right? That's very personal. I will take hold of your hand. I will keep you and I will make you to be a covenant for the people and a light for the Gentiles, to open eyes that are blind and to free captives from prison and to release from the dungeon those who sit in darkness. What does that mean to you? So I see a God who is relational, who loves you and me, who wants to bring hope and healing to everyone, everyone, not just a certain person, not just a certain type of people, not just a certain culture, not just them, but all the people, to free them from whatever darkness that is in their life, right? And a lot of times that has to do with a lot of different things that come our way, that have come our way throughout our lifetime. So, in diving into sometimes our incorrect perceptions of God keep us from trusting Him with our lives. Many times over, I have taught emotional healing workshops. And a lot of times when we first get started, it takes a little while, it takes maybe even a whole month before we even get into some really deep, meaningful conversations, right? At first, everyone is very, very testy, testing the water, trying to see what people are nervous. So people are like trying to see what this workshop is all about. What are we going to be doing? Um, and as we start a conversation, people will say a few things. Questions will be asked, such as, what does this scripture mean to you, right? Um, and people will say, this, it means this, it means that, or they'll try to be theological about it, right? They'll be right in their head about what that means, as if they're, at a school test or something, at school doing a test. And so, um, you know, we never make anyone feel uncomfortable, because we understand that this comes down in layers. But, as as and for sure, anytime I do something, I've actually been the council lead, first before I have done the lesson, you know. So, I don't anything that I teach on or whatever, um, I have definitely been on the other end. So, I've been the disciple. I've been the person who was learning and, fumbling around and not knowing. I've been the person who just came to church, who was the wild kid, you know, um, pushing up against uh, every rule, asking why. Not in a bad way, but I was that young adult that was like, why do we have to do that? Who says that, right? And not pushing up against scripture. That I always believe that. So don't get me wrong with that. But other rules that come in that are not even. You're just like, why? you know, why can't I get up and go use the restroom in the middle of you preaching? you know what I mean? Yeah, I drink a lot of water. um, and that just has to do with not interrupting other people and being courteous and those types of things, right? Um, but oh my gosh, I would really, really get in trouble. So I had been on the other end of um, what church looks like. I've been that person who just come and becoming a part of church, the church world and the church culture, and why do you do that? Why do why do we stand up and sit down and all those things? Um, why do what does that mean? Not that I'm saying I don't want to do it or like I'm just saying I love to worship the Lord. I've never had a problem with that, but I asked why, and a lot of times I couldn't get those questions answered, but um, it was more that people were realizing, yeah, why do we do that? It's just because when I was growing up in church, um, for instance, me personally, now I'm not young, so I'm 59, but even in those days, this is like 1984 in church, right? And in those days, um, I was being told I had to wear a dress to church. And and also um I could not wear flip-flops. That was unheard of. You were like a real rebel if you wore flip-flops to church in California. And so, well, who was not listening to that rule, right? Me. So, I definitely and I'm a former motocross athlete, so I love my jeans. I love my jeans, and I gladly gave them up to come to church when I was told you can't wear jeans to church. Imagine that. You imagine growing up and coming to church in those days, right? Um, and so I changed. I changed and bought a dress and, um, I stopped wearing my flip-flops and my jeans to church. I know it sounds weird to a lot of you guys, younger generation and stuff, but literally that's what it was like. Um, and it's so many things. So I have been on the other end of what it's like to go to church um, and have some strange rules put on you, right? And there's no, um, and you ask, where does this rule come from? Like, you know, um, and and they have realized that, that's what their pastor taught them. And it wasn't even what their pastor taught them. That was just how their pastor dressed and their pastor's wife dressed. No one told them that they had to wear a dress or had to do this. That's just what that pastor that founded that organization, they wore the dress. They never wore the flip-flops, you know? They wore the suit. And so people followed along to that example, right? So, I mean, you know, and they were great, wonderful people. This is not saying that these were people that were horrible, because I had a wonderful time, you know, with a lot of these people, right? Um, but I certainly was the person who would ask, like, why? Um, and so because and still to this day I'm like that, and I don't, you know, I never get the what do you call it, the employee of the month, because because I always ask, why is this rule in place? I don't just comply just to comply, right? And plus, when you're in the first responder field of work, you know, you have to have an ability to think for yourself, right? So you have to be able to uh, um, take a critical situation and and you know, think for yourself. And so even if somebody who's in authority or whatever is saying to you, like one time, you know, we had a fire alarm, and someone in authority was said I had to make some critical decisions at that point. And someone in authority said, no, 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 we don't need to call, fire department doesn't need to come. And, you know, with all the smoke and all the things that were in the corridors and things, I was like, I am going to call the fire department. But I didn't need to call the fire department, because they already respond anyways. We're connected to the line that goes to them in the case of an emergency or fire anyway. So they responded anyway. I didn't need to really do anything. So, and gladly, you know, thank God that they came, because they needed to suck out the smoke with their little professional smoke things. So you will have people that will come to you in your ministry, in your churches, and things that are coming from all kinds of different backgrounds. You know, they're coming from um, the line of work that they do and how they think. They're coming from a culture, and how they do things in their culture, and how they think and respond to life, right? You'll have people in the way that, you know, they have always done, the way that they raise their children, you know, in a certain culture. um, when your little baby girls are starting to grow hair, you know, when they start getting their little hair, it's a tradition that says that, you know, um, if you shave their hair, then their hair will grow out beautiful and thick and healthy and all the things. And so it was a tradition. And so I was like, people were telling me, these mothers, oh, you gotta shave her, you gotta shave her hair. I was like, I'm not shaving my little girl's head, okay? So all of these voices are coming to you. But the one voice that I want to hone in on in all of this, when you come into church culture with all these different people and all the different mamas who have all the different ideas. I had loads. I was not, you know, I was just a young, first was just a young girl just coming to church. I didn't want to hang out with the moms. You know, I wanted to be doing what young girls do, go to the beach, you know, wear my bathing suit, wear my flip-flops. And I had, you know, older ladies with already kids having given me advice and things, you know, and I wanted to sit and be discipled with the men. I wanted to sit and not that I wanted to be with the men in particularly. I didn't think like that. I really did not. of course I knew I was sitting with men, but I didn't think, you know, oh my God, I'm the only woman sitting with these men. I didn't think like that. Um, and I wanted to be discipled. They were getting all of the good stuff over there, you know, and they would push me over here with the women to do cooking or chopping stuff up or whatever it was. And they were talking about babies and, you know, what kind of food their baby ate or whatever. I didn't want to talk about that. The men over here were talking about what the Bible says and preaching the gospel and going on mission trips and, you know, all these things. I wanted to be over there listening. So I would go over there and I would sit, you know, and then they would, you know, gently tell me to go back over there with the women, and I would go back over there. I kind of knew what they were doing, but I didn't listen. That was another rebel moment. But but I was gleaning off of the teachings, and so I just absolutely consumed it. Um, you know, and not I loved being with the women. I loved, you know, hearing their conversations, but I wasn't there yet. You know, when I got there and I had children, then I was like, this is, you know, I'd love to hear your advice. I'd love to hear, you know, what you're conversating about and those types of things. You know, but I also really want some discipling. um, so God is good. God, the voice that you need to be hearing is what God is saying about you and who you are. And his relationship to you is very, very personal to you. And um, you know, in our life, in serving God, especially as ministers, pastors, leaders, you know, even women in the ministry, uh, you're going to be encountering people that are coming from a lot of different stuff and a lot of different hurt, a lot of different hurt. The other day I was talking about how, you know, I'm putting together an event, a women's event in November. And I understand that, you know, when I'm doing any kind of event that I'm doing, and even speaking here today, I am thinking about the one. I'm thinking about the one, you know, and I'm thinking about the person who is that one person who is hurt. And their, you know, their attempt to walk into another church is, we think, oh, just go back to church, you know. Um, but having been in those shoes myself, having been through some really big things, um, I understand the effort that it takes. You know, not that it was not that it's hard for me to go to church or anything like that, but I understand, you know, that after someone is abused, um, by what would be the representative of God, the church, um, you know, it is a very difficult thing to go and to trust that again. So um, I am, that is the ministry that I'm about. I'm about the ministry of healing, and understanding that there are going to be people that are the ones that are not in the main hub of the church. They're not in the group. They're not the groupie. They're the ones that kind of hang and linger off to the side, you know, and they are cautious now. You know, I don't know if you've ever injured yourself. You know, I was in a really bad motorcycle accident, um, on the dirt bike riding, and hurt myself. And I shied away from, it was a leg injury, and I had a limp for the longest time. And I was scared to put my weight back on that leg because the pain was, you know, tremendous, right? So I would shy off of walking on that leg until little by little I would test it, and little by little I would test it again, until I got to the place where I could finally walk on it, then I could finally, jump a little bit, and then finally the pain of it was gone. It was healed, it was well, but it took some time, and definitely I had that moment of, you know, uh, not wanting to fully put all the weight on it. So that's like that lingerer that comes and they're just kind of lingering, outside. They're uh, they're in need of someone to come to them and befriend them. Not not always like demand that they, come to church every time those doors are open or whatever. But just that when you see them, that you make an effort to say hi, to talk to them. Um, and it goes a long, long way because what are they doing? They're testing the ground. And we can't like, cater to everyone. We're not going to be perfect. We're imperfect people going to church, going to a church building and gathering together. And we're all coming with all these different issues. So we can't always do that. But we can sure be aware. We can be aware, and that's what I always share. I always talk about, just having the ability to be aware of your surroundings and the people that are around you. Especially if you're a leader, pastor, or whatever, somebody like that. That we're not just going to church for ourselves. We're already churched. We already know the Word of God. We're now in a place where we're going to church to be aware of other people. How can we help? So we're sometimes we forget that part. We're eager to go see our friends, and we know we're not even considering the fact that somebody is standing on the sidelines, um, you know, and we could befriend them. So, um, how do we do that? How do we come to a place where we are becoming aware, or maybe it's us ourselves that we need to have some healing and things. Um, and like I said, people who have experienced extreme legalism in their church or religious experiences tend to um, have micro micro misconceptions about God. And so I want to establish this this misconception and correct it. So they may see him as a cruel judge waiting to sentence them. This is what people are thinking who have been in this legalistic church world, and they're now trying to come back. So that they think that God is going to judge them harshly if they make any kind of little mistake, right? Um, and it's very, very traumatic. It's traumatizing. So, and another thing is, if you have suffered some form of abuse, you may have difficulty trusting people in general as well as God. In fact, you may be angry at him and for letting painful things happen to you. And so in this, I want to establish that God is a forgiving, loving, and caring person. He is not that angry judging God, waiting for you to or just sitting up there waiting for you to make any little mistake, and then he's gonna, bam, judge you. That is not God. That is not God. He loves you and me. He wants to be in your life. in your mistakes, in your issues, in your hangups, in your rebelliousness. He is not going to leave you. He is going to be walking right there with you, and helping you gently um, navigate this time in your life, right? So, what are the fears that you may have? Here's a question to my viewers. What are the fears that you may have uh, about God that keep you from truly entering into a closer relationship with Him? Because the reason why we don't is because there's something that is causing us to fear. Maybe we fear that judgment. Maybe we fear that God is going to respond to you like that one pastor did. Um, there was a woman, a pastor's wife, that my aunt had an encounter with a pastor's wife, um, where the pastor's wife was annoyed with her. Like she was this pastor's wife got to this point in her ministry, in her life, serving God and ministering, where she had gotten, and it happens to us, but her her reaction was not nice. So this pastor's wife is now, she's in this place in her ministry where everybody's wanting her attention. Hey, and then every time they stop her, they want to dump on her, right? They want to dump their problem. This happened to me, and this happened to me, and this happened to me. It's like ongoing, constantly. And so, in this one particular situation, my aunt wanted to say something, and the pastor's wife responded with, "Can't you see that I'm busy?" And my aunt never went back to church again because of that. She is now back in church. She's now in another church, but can you imagine having someone respond to you like that? um, you know, you would think that we would be, have some empathy and, at least have some understanding. No, people will walk away from that and be really hurt, and then they relate that to God. Is that how God responds to me? Like, why are you coming to me again with the same prayer? You know what I mean? Um, and that's not how God is responding to you with the same prayer. You can go to Him repetitively with the same prayer. He will still be gently, lovingly there for you. Okay? Those are some of the types of experiences that people really legit have. Um, but I want you to know that we're all just human experiencing this and trying to navigate what it looks like to be a pastor, to be the disciple, the churchgoer, uh, to to navigate all these different dynamics is really, really difficult. Um, you know, uh, I think it would have helped if there would have been an apology or acknowledgement. um, Apologies, I always say to you guys, um, just practice your manners. We all know that we're all not perfect, but if that pastor's wife would have just went back and said, "Hey, you know what? I am sorry. Like, can I just get with you later?" um, then it would have been done. It would have been, there would not have been any hard feelings, anything, nothing like that. Um, People understand. But there was none of that. There was no acknowledgement. There was no nothing. It was just she felt like she had the right to say, "Can't you see I'm busy?" and then move on. But on the other person's part, they remember. So um, so in trying to correct the wrong perception that we have of God, I don't want you to have this bad perception of God, this is what we're teaching today, or this incorrect perception. The correct perception of God is this. And so in closing, here are some of the things that you can take away today. Okay. Um, God is a loving father, and even with that, some of us have had parents that aren't so good, and our perception is warped in how we view any kind of authority or parental figure. And God is that figure. He is that authoritative figure, right? And so we think that, you know, if we go through some kind of a hard time, we think, well, what is wrong with this God? Why would he, a loving God, allow me to go through this hardship, right? And I'm here to testify to you that any and all the hardships that I have ever gone through um, have only been for me to be when I'm teaching you guys that when I went through my counseling course, um, we had to. You cannot graduate the course unless you have first experienced what it's like to be the counselee. Okay, because everybody goes in there and wants to be the fixer, the counselor, and all this and that. But until you have been the counselee and know what that feels like, then we can move forward with that, right? And in a real scenario, it's not just role play, but a real something that you brought that you're being counseled with. So the same thing goes with all of this that I'm teaching today. Um, you know, that we first have to know what that's like. When any of the things that I've ever been through is just an experience that God has allowed for me to feel what that feels like. What does that? Why? What? In my compassion for people that have been abused in church, abused in their background, childhood, or whatever. Um, my ability to be empathetic and those types of things comes from the experiences that I have had myself. So I have been in certain shoes. I don't know what they personally feel, but I have been through some similar situations that could help me to understand what someone is going through. Many people have had, many great experiences in church, and they've never been through any kind of, abuse, legalism, or just harshness um, of any type. Their experience was wonderful, so they don't know why people don't want to come to church. They don't get it, right? They think that that one person is just being you know bad, or they're backslidden. Everything is suddenly backslidden, and that's not always the case. It really is not. And sometimes it just is that person has a wound, like how I hurt my leg, and they're shying away from walking on that. I was not wanting to put any pressure on that leg because it hurt, and I didn't trust putting the pressure on my leg. So until finally uh, I was able to walk, and then run, and then jump, and then it was well, and I knew that I could, do anything after that. And so can you, and so can I, and in teaching you who God is. Um, Here are some of the parts that God plays. This is what God's part in your life and my life. This is who God is to you and me. Okay. And this is God's part. He inspires us. You ever felt inspired by God? His word, his love for us. He inspires us. He forgives us. He gave us his word. He gave us his word. He gives us insight. He encourages us. He heals us. He gives us strength. He never leaves us. He guides us. He directs us. He sent his son to die for us. But what is our part in this whole thing? What is our part towards God? Well, I'm going to read that. It's really simple. Our part is to just let God into our life. Easy enough. Let God into our life. Love him and others. He's not asking for much. Give up our sin with his help. He is not asking for much, and he is not asking us to do it alone. Give up our sin with his help. Follow his principles. Confess our sins. Forgive others and ourselves. Replace our old behaviors with new ones. Right our mistakes. Connect with him and others daily. Connect with him and others daily. What are some insights that you have gained from looking at God's part and our part today? What are some insights that you have gained? So I want you to go home. You're going to be with me next week here on Heart of the City, San Diego. And I want you to have reflected on this teaching. I want you to go away. I want you to think about some of the things that were said. I want you to think about, how we view, how we view the people around us. That, do we have an awareness of that, of people and their things that they may be going through, right? Um, you know, um, and then I want you to think about, what is your part in all of this? What is your part? So are you the person that is, um, the empathetic person that is aware that there's that one person that is standing on the sidelines, and uh, do they want to explore? Because we can't just make someone, just jump in, dive in. Some people do just jump right in 2 feet, go for it kind of thing. That's me. I'm very much like that. But there are times when I'm on the sideline too, and testing a little bit the waters, and seeing, is this what I want to do? Um, you know, but is there that one person that is maybe walking that out with you, that they're aware of that they're saying, hey, when you're ready, or hey, are you ready? Hey, do you want to come and see what explore more into what God has for you? Like maybe they need a little encouragement. So in my years of working with people and things, even coming back from ministering in England, coming back, moving to San Diego, and I opened up the Bible study that turned into a veterans Bible study at a park. I just I just thought, hey, it's the coolest thing to, have social media that you can say, hey, I'm inviting you to come over. I was doing like an experiment, and and again, I'm an older person, so these are experiments to me, right? Because we didn't have this in our generation, in our days when I was growing up as a young adult and stuff. So, we called people on the telephone, hey, we're going to meet over here, or we put flyers on someone's door that they got mad about. But this social media thing, I posted up, hey, well, I'm going to meet over here on this day at at the park. I brought some snacks, and the first couple of times, really no one showed up. I was there by myself, and I was like, am I doing the right thing? And I said, no, I know that God will intercept this. I know that God will be there with me, and something will happen. Something will come through fruition. I wanted to see, is God still moving? I was wanting to see if God was still moving in my life, and it and really what I discovered is it is not about me whatsoever. It is about whoever God decides that he wants to minister to or touch or whatever. I'm just a vessel, and all I did was invite people to come together at a certain place, a gathering, you know, and they did. And one person came and it was awkward, and then another person came, and then we had a group that came. It was a whole bunch of us that came for a whole summer, and then they all left because active duty in San Diego. As this was turning into military, I don't even know how that happened, but you know, they in active duty, and people got busy out. When summer ended, um, then I had this one young man who started coming, and he was faithful. Him and a couple of his buddies were constantly coming, and then suddenly he would then start to ask me more questions, or then he would ask more things, or he would then tell me that he had a vision or a plan to do like a nonprofit, that he was dreaming of doing this or that, and it was hard for him to say that. What would I say if he shared that? He's like my son's age, and it seemed as though it was difficult for him to share that, because maybe I might say, oh no, you can't do that. uh, that's only for uh, that well-known pastor. Only he can do that. And I was like, no one needs to give you any permission to do that. If that is what God is calling you to do, I am here to support you with that. I'm going to be here to pray with you, to help you, give you advice if you need it, for whatever experience I may have had in working with people. I am the servant. I am not here to, this was what God was reminding me of. This isn't about me. It's not about me and my healing journey. It's not about me in, what if God is still moving in my life or not. It's not about me. I was using my experiences, my wisdom, if I have some, to minister to these young men and women that came, but particularly this young man with his buddies and stuff. And they all ended up, opening up these businesses and stuff. Uh, and this young man to this day opened up a ministry that he does, and it's coming to some fruition, and and it is amazing to watch this. So that is what it is all about. And had I thought back in my old ways that, he wasn't a person who was, like going traditionally to church in the way that you would go traditionally, right? And this whole online church thing concept was like really foreign to me, really foreign. Like, what is that allowed? You know? um, so I watched this young man go from point A to an amazing point B, and now in ministry and has vision for business and whatever else that he does. All I do is just, you know, say, and I'm just an ear to listen when he has these ideas, and then we team together too, for this event that's coming up, my women's event. He'll be volunteering to do whatever, videography, or volunteering to help, um, in the setup or whatever. We have a few volunteers like that, but it is just incredible, incredible, and I'm just the servant. I'm just the vessel, the servant, um, just creating a place for people to gather together. A lot of people that sometimes aren't in church traditionally, the way that, us old school people think that it should look like, what it should be like. um, and I have eliminated the what it should be out of my vocabulary, because God is way, way bigger than that. God is way bigger than what I think things should be. So, with that said, I want to leave you with that God is loving. He sees you and me, and he he can take the things that we think should what things should be like, and he could blow our minds. So I don't know about you, but I like to get my mind blown. I like to be in that moment where I'm just like, wow, that was big. I never thought about that. you know. Um, so I love you guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye.